Rockschool Grade 1 from 2012. I'm going to give you a rundown of everything you have to do, some stuff about why you have to do it, even if it's not necessarily obvious. I'm also going to play through the scales and the chords and the exercises. Your biggest task here is you've got to play 3 tracks. You've got a choice of 6, so it shouldn't be a problem. The book tells you you can do up to 2 free choice pieces. To be honest, I never recommend for the early grades to bother with doing free choice pieces because you've got enough new stuff to sort out as it is. But for example, if you've got a copy of the old grade 1 book up to 2012, then maybe you could do something out of there. Otherwise, to be perfectly honest, I would just make your choice out of here. Lots of people, when they come to start around about the grade 1 stage, have spent a lot of time playing loads of power chords. Now, we all know power chords are really important, and most of your well-known songs are pretty well stuffed full of them. But what you'll notice when you look at the new syllabus here is that they're trying to get us out of the habit of just thinking in power chords all the time. So most of the tracks here are a mixture of single note playing, tunes if you like, and some riff type playing, and full chords. So basically, they want us to be able to project a melodic line and hold it together rhythmically, getting the notes right. They also want us to be able to play full chords with all that implies for how your left hand works, how upright your fingers are, making sure that all the notes are nice and clear and that nothing's muted. People often wonder whether the odd note missing out of a full chord is that noticeable. Well, the examiners get paid to be able to notice stuff like this. Very often it's the note in the chord that's easiest to mute is the most important. For example, the one that makes a minor chord a minor chord. And we'll just clear up one really important thing just to make sure there's no doubt whatsoever. In the book you've got the CD. On the CD you've got full mix tracks and backing tracks. The full mix track is the one that's got the guitar part that you're expected to play. You don't have to make it sound exactly like that. Chances are your amp tone, any effects you're using, etc. will be a bit different. But that is basically your part. When you go into the exam, you have to play your part to the backing track, which does not have that guitar part on it. Be under no illusions about that. They will not play the full track. You really have to make sure you can play your part confidently without that part on there to guide you. Something else I very often find with players at this stage in their learning is they haven't really ever played to a backing track at all, or very often they haven't played with other musicians. Now obviously playing with other musicians is going to be your main goal. If when you get to play with other players you simply cannot stay in time, you're going to be out of the door pretty fast because they won't want you to be there. So make sure that you can really play in time with the backing track, really synchronized in with it. And one of the most important things you can do to get you to that stage is, and I know this possibly sounds a bit strange, but listen to the backing track on its own really quite a lot. Basically, once you've got used to how the full track goes, that is after all pretty important to learn the rhythm and the nuances and all the rest, make sure that you listen to the backing track probably as much, maybe even more often than you listen to the full track. After all, if you're playing with other people, that's what you're doing. You're listening to them and interacting with them and responding with them. Now obviously you can't get the CD to interact with you, it just does its stuff and you have to stay with it. But that training element of being able to really hear what else is going on is really important and will stand you in good stead when you do play with other people. Now, just now I said that you're not expected to sound exactly like the full mix, and of course you're not. You can't, you're a different player, you've got different gear, all the rest. When you get to the later grades, very often you may well find that you can do things which might be slightly different, but which in their way are equally valid. For grade 1, probably for grade 2, I wouldn't try and do that. Basically play what's there, get it right, nail it. Don't try and be creative particularly at this sort of stage. there's too much danger of that being interpreted as getting it wrong. I've got just a couple more small pieces of advice. Firstly, always, without exception, play in tune. That means every time you start a new thing, a new track particularly, check your tuning. Have a tuner there on your stand, on your table, wherever you're playing, so you can just turn it on without it being a stress or a problem, or you're having to go and find it or anything like this. If you're relying on some kind of online tuner or whatever, then get yourself a tuner. They're not terribly much, and they will really stand you in good stead. Best of all, get a tuner that's got a metronome on board as well. Even if at early stages you're not particularly using that, pretty soon you will find a tuner absolutely invaluable to help you with playing in time, with playing rhythmically, important things like that. The other thing I want to say is about the scales and the other technical tests. Obviously scales don't have a reputation for being the most interesting thing ever invented. But basically what I find all the time is those players who get on with it, who get the scales down, those are the ones that get on and do well. So if your attitude is a little bit iffy when it comes to scales, change it, because then you will get better. I've never found anyone who struggled with the scales, who couldn't see the point. They never really get very far. The ones who really knuckle down, sort it out, get the scales done, those are the ones who do nicely. And speaking of the scales, here they are. First thing to say, if you do have a metronome, you will probably look in vain for the number 70. They say the tempo is crotchet equals 70, and all normal metronomes either have 69 or 72. So as they say, go figure. I'm going to be playing it at 69. I would suggest you start off at a lower number, build it up, maybe even practice them a little bit faster so you've got some headroom, and then bring it down to 69 or 72. Or if you've got an online metronome or some other gadget, then obviously do it at 70. Technically, what you're looking for here, if you possibly can, even at this early stage, is alternate your pick. So that means you play your first note down, your second note up, and so on, even when that means going past a string and then coming back up. That basically is setting you up so that when it really matters, when you're doing higher grades and you cannot possibly play the scales up to tempo with downstrokes, then you will be well and truly sorted. You'll be able to do it. Don't leave it till then. You might as well start now. Here's your first scale. It's called C major. It tells you that you can either hear a single bar of click before you start or play continuously. I always recommend play continuously with a click. If nothing else, it's more impressive. And we might even put it on 4 time. Here we go. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you might notice there was I've got the amp set more or less entirely clean, and I've got the neck pickup selected. Make sure you don't leave your amp or your pedal or whatever set up to sound like Metallica, because there's too much danger of little glitches or whatever coming in. So basically play it clean. Here's the next one. It's called A natural minor. 2, 3, 4. And here comes E minor pentatonic. 2, 3, 4. This is quite a slow tempo. The big danger with this kind of tempo is actually getting a little bit ahead of the click. So make sure you're listening very carefully to the gap in between, maybe even counting the and that would exist between. Here comes A minor pentatonic, 2, 3, 4. And G major pentatonic, 3, 4. With the major chords, they don't particularly want you to play them in time. It says will be strummed once as directed by the examiner. I'd stress the once, that means you only get one go at it. So really get used to getting those fingers beautifully upright and making sure that every single note in the chord is actually present and correct. Obviously, when you play it, it's going to be a strum like that rather than picked separately. But really get used to it. So you've got your A major, D major, E major, C major, and finally G. All of those chords have got places where it's quite easy to mute a note by accident, so look out for them. Minor chords, similarly, A minor, D minor, E minor. Lastly, any chord that is not all 6 strings has a lowest note which is meant to be the lowest note. So make sure, for example, when you play an A chord or an A minor chord, that it's the 5th string that you hit first and not the 6th. It really does matter. And finally, here's the riff. They've done the thing of printing it in one position starting on string 6 and leaving it for you to work out how to start it on string 5. So they've printed it for the beginning, we're starting on string 6, and then the 5th string second, 4th string open, 2, 0, 2. That's in the book. Next bit starts on the 5th string, and then you do the 4th string 2, 3rd string open, 2, 0, 2, and then the 6th string for the 3rd bar, and then that last bar again, it's the 5th string open, 4th string 2, 3rd string open, 2, 0, 2. Sounds like this.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So that's all for the moment, folks. I do hope that's been helpful and that you have a great time doing your grade 1 and that you carry on and keep doing plenty of other grades as well as plenty of other stuff. After all, you're not meant to be just playing grades all the time. You've got to do other stuff as well. And I hope you look around to see some of the other help stuff I've done, the videos about the tracks and so on. Okay, bye for now.